told you not to talk about it. They told you not to ask questions, not to notice what's really happening. But this isn't their channel. This is Triggered But Right. Hello everyone, Triggered But Right here. Welcome back to the next episode of Hard Truth. We have a pretty great show for you today on Saturday, the best day of the week, as everyone knows. And I'm excited to get into a lot of stuff that has a lot of stuff that has happened straight after yesterday's show. In one day, things are happening, things are growing, tensions are growing, and it seems fitting that not much happened last week, because in one day, pretty crazy things have started happening. And we're going to get into a lot of stuff today, but the first thing I want to get into that we all know about is that ICE killed another guy in Minneapolis. He was a 37-year-old. Could have possibly pulled a gun. We really don't know what happened, though, because there are a lot of different stories about what's going on here. He was essentially struggling with ICE for some reason, believed to be a U.S. citizen. I mean, he was a white guy, just some white guy, but they struggled for a while, supposedly. He supposedly, and I'm going to use that word a lot here, pulled a gun on him. Another ICE dude shot him to death. Now, as I said in the last show, I thought that the ICE tensions were just going to keep building on top of each other until something worse and worse happens, and that's what's been happening. I seem to have been right. I seem to have been correct with my prediction, because now, again, I'm seeing more and more news articles that are telling me protesters clash with ICE officers. My least favorite thing to see when an article says clash with whatever. So ICE officers are shooting tear gas cans and whatnot into crowds of protesters, some of them being overly ambitious, violent, whatever you want to say, but a lot of weird stuff is happening, so local law enforcement has to help because there are hundreds of people chanting, screaming profanity, whatever, at all these people who are not even trained for crowd control. And now the Minnesota National Guard has been approved to be sent in, so a lot of stuff is happening in that state. And I do want to say, I do think that I should be trained more, all that, whatever, but why isn't this happening in any other state or city? That's the real question. And I do think to some extent they should be cooperating. They should be cooperating more, because people are going to die. People are going to die. Because, again, ICE agents are not trained in crowd control. Not in any way, shape, or form, because they're meant to get in there, get whoever, get out. And now that there are crowds of protesters and crowds of whatever and crowds of people, and as we all know, the word protester has vastly changed over the years, and instead of holding signs up now, people like to run in and just punch random people, because that's what protesting is now. But the crowds of protesters are here, and they're not trained in the hands of that. So things are going to get worse and worse unless Minnesota decides to start, at least to some extent, they can keep denouncing them, whatever, but not actively, trying to go against them, because that's just getting their own people killed. It doesn't make any sense to me. I do not understand, because, again, if the National Guard is being sent into a U.S. state, we know something goofy's going on, something bad is happening, and I just think that these tensions are going to continue rising. I do think more people are going to end up dying, and that's awful. I don't even know, because this is just building on top of each other, right? Because there were peaceful protests after Renee Good was killed. Now this guy's killed, and people are getting a little bit more angry, a little bit more rowdy over in Minnesota, and all of the sudden the National Guard is there just trying to help crowd control for agents that aren't trained in crowd control. It's insanity. We are living in a crazy state right now. And then after that, I was just scrolling through news this morning, whatever, and Trump's threatening 100% tariffs on Canada if they trade with China, because that's all he does. He just loves to like tax his way out of trouble, I guess, because everyone gets afraid. He keeps throwing this I don't know, it's just like racism. I don't even know what tariff means anymore. He keeps saying we're gonna throw 100% tariffs on this, 400% tariffs on that, and we're just gonna let it go, and then they just disappear like 3 months later, because he is, I mean, he gets things done, but he is a very indecisive person, we can say for sure, and a little lack of impulse control, because now we are just throwing tariffs absolutely everywhere, which is really, really goofy. I don't even know how I feel about the tariffs, because it's almost like the guy who ran on, like, to some extent, kind of anti-taxes, whatever, we're gonna help you, and then now he's just taxing everything else, because that's what a tariff is, right? It's essentially just a trade tax, and now he is just sending out these taxes to every other place we've ever been allied with, and it's all weird. I mean, it's obviously worked because we haven't got into any wars yet, but there has been some tensions rising and whatnot. My favorite story of the week so far is Ryan Wedding. I don't know if you heard about this, but I just honestly find this hilarious. He was an ex-Olympic snowboarder who got basically found out as a drug kingpin. What are we reading at this point? He was shipping like thousands of pounds of cocaine into Las Vegas, and he has also like attempted murder charges and all this weird stuff. He's going to prison for over 20 years, but an ex-Olympic snowboarder out of all people. I mean, he sure does love the snow, I guess, but that is just something else. I don't even know what to say about that. Can you imagine getting pulled over and they're like, one of the policemen's like, oh, I was such a big fan of you back when you were snowboarding all the time. I don't know. I, for some reason, just find that story hilarious. A little bright spot. It's kind of sad that the bright spot in American news is that we found a drug kingpin from a violent drug trading whatever, but I gotta laugh out of it. But some more good news, actual good news. TikTok supposedly, and I have to say supposedly, is making a more Americanized version of the app. They've come across some deal. But again, I think the last time the TikTok quote-unquote ban went through, it was like 12 hours. Like, I remember I was hanging out with someone, and their TikTok got banned, right? And then they woke up and were on it. It was 12 hours till it was back online. So whenever I see this stupid TikTok news, I can't even take it seriously anymore, because it just seems nothing ever goes through. It's this stupid back and forth battle of, oh, you should sell to America, and then they're like, we might do it, psych, no, and then it just goes back and forth like that. I mean, this has been going on for years, so nothing is changing regarding TikTok making an Americanized version of the app. It's a possibility, I guess, but I really think that it's just going to be another psych moment with China and TikTok and their little spy software. On net, another kind of hilarious thing that I have found out is Melania Trump has a movie. Does that sound interesting to anyone who's like, we're going to make a movie about Trump's wife? I mean, I'm sure that they made it interesting because it probably had a pretty high production value, seeing as she's the wife of the president of the United States. But I just find it kind of hilarious. Who wants to go see that movie? That is such a bad idea for a movie. And it's not even like Eleanor Roosevelt, where like she's like a super active first lady or anything. You don't ever hear anything about Melania Trump, and now they're just making some movie about her. I guess they really ran out of ideas. That's like the only stranger movie production choice that I can think of, other than making a Melania Trump movie, is like placing the Neil Diamond movie premiere on Christmas. It's just one of those who's going to see that things that I can't even fathom with that. Another thing that happened pretty much overnight, maybe a couple days ago, is a charity director stole $23 million. $23 million in homeless funds. He bought like $1 million house, 2 cars, all this stuff, because as you know, a lot of these charities, a weird amount of them, because it seems like you see this story every other week, are just some guy at the top just making a crap ton of money from people thinking they're helping people when they're not, when they're just helping this guy buy his next Lambo. It's so disgusting. This happens so much, like way too much. You can't trust charity anymore. Like, the only charity you can trust is handing out money to people on the side of the street, and you even can't trust that anymore, because as you know, like in Missouri a couple years ago, there was some guy who made like $100,000 a year off it, like had a house and was just out begging, and that was his job. Like, I swear, you can't trust any charity anymore, and it's so sad, because everyone wants to help people, and then all of a sudden this guy has $23 million and is getting arrested for 20 years, or yeah, is getting arrested for about 20-ish years, which is just, it's hilarious. I think he's going away, not for 20, I think it's about over a decade, which is crazy. That this was a charity director. These are supposed to be the people who are helping our homeless, who are helping Americans, and no, this guy was not helping anyone. $23 million. That is a large amount of money to be just stolen and gone. And yeah. But my headlining story, the main thing, because again, that was a lot of stuff is happening. So even we'll see where that Minnesota story goes. But my headlining quote unquote story for today that I just wanted to talk about for a little bit is where I think my generation is going politically. And when I say my generation, I am a part of the A/Z generation. I am fairly young, but I just wanted to say from an inside view, because there are not many people out here talking about politics around this age, and I just wanted to give you a little inside look out, because again, not many inside looks out. Essentially, what I think is going on, so there are a lot of people around my age, and I live in a very liberal area, I will say that, but I truly think, so what I have found is when I talk to someone whose parents never talk to them about politics in any shape or form, ever, those people are the most conservative. And obviously I'm talking about if they have liberal parents who don't talk to them about politics, those people tend to lean conservative. Don't know why, but that is what's happening a lot. Because I feel like with Gen Zers, so 20-year-olds ish, their parents talk to them about politics a lot. Like, I think that that's true, because a lot of them are very pretty left leaning, and the Charlie Kirk thing kind of changed that, but the left always generally will win the younger vote, right? And so their parents talk to them a lot about politics, and if a majority of those are left, then a majority of the children will be left, right? That's dying off a bit. Like, as I said, I do live in a fairly liberal area, but even a lot of them are fairly left-winged, but even those people, a lot of them, their parents are not talking to them about politics nearly as much, so they're kind of changing their view a lot. Because I will say, a lot of people's political views nowadays does come from marketing online, right? So because whether you like it or not, if you're scrolling all day, you might not remember what you learn, but the things that you're scrolling past, like, your brain does in to some extent. And this isn't like obviously you can fight against it. I'm not saying if you're right-winged and you scroll through a bunch of left-wing content, you're suddenly going to be left-wing. I think it's more if you have an indifferent opinion. Because a lot of these people, again, their parents do not talk to them about politics much. So they have no real basis of a view at all. So it really just comes down to a lot. I don't want to say a lot of the time, but to some extent, some of what their feeds are showing them, but also just what they think is normal. Because in America in general, whether you like it or not, like a lot of I'm like looks maxing, Chad, whatever, all that stuff, like that is conservatively dominant culture. And I can explain to you why. Because it's all basically just like like all the memes. It doesn't matter if you're left wing or right wing. A lot of the memes are like very ultra masculine. Oh, I'm mewing to get my jawline masculine, whatever. Like all these fairly right-winged ideology culture stuff. So that's why I think a lot of the people whose parents don't talk to them about politics really do end up leaning more right wing. They don't even know they're leaning right wing, but it's because a lot of the culture in America, just from daily life and memes and everything, all of that is conservatively dominant. And it's kind of hilarious because honestly, when I say that, you're probably questioning me like, what? But again, as I said, like the looks magazine and like Chad stuff, and I feel stupid saying that, but all of that stuff, which is pretty dominant in terms of memes and culture and life in America, all of that stuff, all of it is coming from a conservative stance of, oh, I'm a man, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So that's what's normal to these kids. A lot of the time, to people that age, that is what is considered the normal ideas, the normal life. And then they end up seeing this stuff, and I'm not saying that this is a good or bad thing, and if they're politically indifferent because their parents haven't, and I do want to say it, indoctrinated, because whether you're on the right or the left, whatever you believe, you're shoving into your kid's brain. So it's a type of indoctrination, not an evil one, but a type. So if they haven't been indoctrinated into a certain idea of left or right, then they're going to end up, specifically in America, leaning more right, because again, when their parents don't talk to them, they're like, oh, Chad, okay, this is normal. There's guys, and the guys are generally more strong and whatever, and there's girls and whatever, and then they just end up having this slightly more right-wing view on life. And the thing is, again, I don't know where our generation is generally headed, because again, after Charlie Kirk got killed, and he was a big perpetuator in it, I don't think that he was turning left-winged people right, but he was definitely helping those politically indifferent people go to the right, whether you like it or not. He was. And after that, after we kind of lost our young person guy, I don't think that the conservatively dominant culture can still pull us through and still keep these people more right-winged. I do think, because every mainstream outlet, everyone, because even if you check like the bias ratings, it's always like Fox News is like straight right, and then MSNBC is like 1 or 2 to the left, even though they're both the farthest amount of extreme and like less reliable in terms of news sites. And that's what it's telling the kids. So when they check these things, the news is still, like, I know that nobody really trusts the news, but it's still considered somewhat reliable. So if every news story is from 8 of the main news sources is a left-wing perspective, then people are going to start developing a left-wing perspective. And again, now that we lost our young activist guy, I don't necessarily know where we're going, and then a lot of people were like, oh, Nick Fuentes, he's going to take Charlie Kirk's views, right? And all the kids are going to become extreme. No, the people who watch him are like 22-year-old dudes, I'm going to say. Most of them are not my age. The people my age, that they don't watch the long form. Like the weird thing about him is I don't even know how he became popular, because his setup is like almost like closer to mainstream news than anything, right? It's a guy sitting at a desk and talking for 2 hours. That's not what my generation's getting. That's why Charlie Kirk got some of the people my age, because he would just send out like these clips, right? And then they'd see them, and if they were slightly right-winged, they would be like, oh, this is a good talking point. This is a point I can use, right? And so no, Nick Fuentes is not what my generation is doing. They do watch streams, but that's a weird one. Those are like 23-year-olds, and I know that that's still the young people, but they're already voting. I'm talking about people pre-voting, pre all of that. So coming into the force, I do think people are going to become more left-winged, because again, we have a president where almost all the news outlets, whether you like him or not, I'm not saying he's good or bad, but all the news outlets are saying, oh, this guy sucks, which in young people's brains translates to right-wing sucks. So I do think that a left-wing dominant culture is going to come out, but not ultra left. That's the difference, because people my age, since their parents aren't talking to them about politics, because if your parents talk to you about politics, you can be considered of the convinced to the most extreme of extremes. You can't, whether you like it or not. If someone walks up and tells you all transgender people should be in all sports, blah 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 blah, or if someone walks up to you and says the 19th Amendment should be repealed, like, you're gonna believe that if you're 5 or whatever for the rest of your life. But since people aren't talking to their kids about politics as much, they're going to come out, even though slightly more left because of what the news is saying about more right-wing candidates, they're going to come in slightly more left, but still have a normal view on reality, because there is not as much meddling as there was with Gen Z with their minds. That's why a lot of like Gen Z is crazy far left, because they have been told to be throughout their entire life. But now it's just some of the mainstream news outlets and showing crazy stuff about Trump with whatever level of context. And that's their only thing. So they're just going to come out slightly more left, but still with a normal view on reality. So still nothing crazy. Still the ability to like vote for a right-wing candidate or left-wing candidate. I really do think this is going to be the most politically non-biased group of people, because they have less people telling them what to believe. So thank you. This was episode 3 of Hard Truth with Triggered But Right. I want to see you. I would like to see you in the next one, which may be tomorrow, maybe Monday, definitely next weekend. I hope to be having a new video out within the next couple weeks, but those take a lot of time to make, as you know. So thank you for watching Hard Truth with Triggered But Right. I will see you in the next one.